Your diet has not changed, but your waist has. And no matter what you try, the belly fat will not budge. If that is you, this is the most important video you're gonna watch this year, because I'm gonna explain exactly why this is happening, what the research says actually works, and why the two things most women try first are making it harder, not easier. I've been coaching women in person for almost 20 years. Our studios here in Vancouver have done tens of thousands of sessions, and I'm not watching this from the sidelines, okay? I'm in perimenopause myself. I'm raising 5 kids. I'm applying everything I teach to my own body every single day. I've also been studying the work of researchers like Dr. Lauren Colenso. She's one of the most credible voices on female muscle physiology right now, and the picture is actually clearer than most women have been led to believe. So here's what we're going to cover: why your body fat is redistributing in the first place, why the most popular explanation online is misleading, and why the two things most women try are not enough on their own, and then what I call the foundations framework. The first thing I need you to understand is that for most women in perimenopause and menopause, belly fat is not appearing because you're just suddenly eating so much more or you're just moving way less. It is relocating. Your body fat is being sent to a different place because your hormones have changed. Here is how it worked before. Estrogen was directing your body fat towards your hips, your thighs, your subcutaneous tissue, just under the skin. And that is why most women maybe had a little more of a pear shape in their 30s. But when estrogen starts to decline in perimenopause, that direction signal fades. And that fat that used to go to your hips and your thighs, more naturally for women, starts to go somewhere else. It starts to go deep into the abdomen, like right around the organs. That is visceral fat. So same food, same lifestyle, but different hormonal instruction for where the fat is stored. And I see this constantly. A woman comes to me, she says, look, I have not changed anything. I have the same diet I've had for years. I have the same activity level. I might even be moving more, but my waist has grown. My clothes fit differently, and I just don't understand why. So here's the first shift in our thinking. Stop treating this a diet problem. If your diet has not changed, but your belly has, the answer is not necessarily in your food diary. The answer is in understanding what your body needs at this stage and understanding the whole picture. So now that you understand why this is happening, the next thing I want to address is the most popular explanation you're hearing online, which I'm sure you've heard. You've probably come across a lot of content about cortisol. The idea that stress is making you store fat in your midsection and that managing cortisol is the key to fixing this. There's something to it. Like in a condition called Cushing's syndrome, that does contribute to cause fat to redistribute in the midsection. That is real. Cortisol does play a role. But here's the thing. Cortisol spikes are actually very healthy and normal. So when you do an intense workout, your cortisol spikes. When you're under stress, your cortisol spikes. That is your body doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The problem is not that cortisol spikes, and I think that's the confusion here. The problem is chronically elevated cortisol over long periods of time without recovery. That's when it becomes a concern. And in all honesty, the vast majority of women in perimenopause are not walking around with pathologically elevated cortisol levels. They are dealing with a decline in estrogen, and that is changing where the body stores fat. That is the primary driver, not cortisol. So let me be clear. Managing stress and sleep is genuinely important, of course. But if you have cut your training intensity because you're worried about cortisol or you're spending a ton of money on cortisol management products, I want you to ask whether you have the foundations in place first, because the foundations are what actually move the needle. The next question is going to address the two things most women try first, and this is really important, okay? So most women try diet and cardio alone. When women start to notice that belly fat is accumulating in menopause, the two things they always reach for is cutting their calories and adding more cardio. And I completely understand why, right? Those are the tools that worked before. The problem is they're incomplete without the right foundation underneath them. In a state of estrogen deficiency, without a proper strength training stimulus and without enough protein, calorie restriction tends to break down muscle alongside fat. And so the cardio is generally great, right? It's great for your heart and for your mood. The research supports that. But before you cut more calories and add a bunch more cardio, ask one question. Do I have the foundations in place? Because without the foundations, you can work incredibly hard and still not get where you want to go. So now let me show you the foundation framework, because this is where the strategy gets very clear and very specific. What I see with almost every woman who comes to me dealing with menopause belly fat is the same thing. She's pulling so many different levers. And the answer is usually not the new lever or going back to what she always did. It's getting these foundations locked in. So 1, progressive strength training. This is the most important one. And it's the one that most women are either not doing or they're not doing with enough intention, right? They don't really know what they're doing and why they're training training and what they should be doing. Remember, muscle is metabolically active tissue. It uses glucose. It burns fat at rest. It raises your baseline for calorie burn. And building and maintaining muscle directly counters the metabolic shift that makes that visceral fat so hard to move. I'm not talking about a bunch of little light weights for high reps, where again, you can do lighter weights and higher reps, but you've got to work close to failure, which is difficult for most. So we've got to get you more in that 8 to 12 rep range that's working you close to failure. Because progressive strength training, where it consistently challenges your body with load over time, is the stimulus that your body needs. And this works best when it's combined with a little bit of cardio, right? You need some capacity work. That will contribute a little bit to fat loss, but strength training is what builds muscle and that metabolic foundation. And it really helps you hormonally as well. Together, they are way more powerful than either one alone, because the goal of strength training is not to burn calories during the session, but it's to change the environment that your body lives in for 24 hours a day. Next one, adequate protein. I'm sure you've heard of it, adequate protein and macronutrients. This is where I see so many women fall short, and it's such a fixable problem. Most women I work with are not eating enough protein, they're not eating enough carbohydrate, they're not getting enough fiber, and they're not distributing their food evenly throughout the day. Muscle cannot build itself without that raw material to do so. When you're not eating enough protein and you're in a calorie deficit, your body is naturally going to break down muscle for fuel. Then you have less muscle. That means a slower metabolism. A slower metabolism means more fat storage. And in a post-estrogen environment, the fat goes straight to the abdomen. Getting your protein right, getting your carbs right, distributing your food evenly, and managing alcohol. These are the fundamentals, and they have to be in place before anything else. Next part of your foundation is sleep and recovery. So sleep is where your body does its repair work. And I say this so often, as your repair days are as important as your work days. In perimenopause and menopause, sleep is being disrupted by the very hormonal changes that we've been talking about. So the decline in progesterone, the fluctuations in estrogen, the hot flashes, all of that fragments your sleep. And fragmented sleep raises your hunger hormones, slows your recovery. It makes everything harder. So managing sleep is not just a nice to have, it's a foundation. When sleep improves, everything else responds better. And a lot of women, that's going to help. That's the first thing often help is their sleep. Hormonal therapy, HRT, is not going to be the solution if you do not have the foundations in place. So if you're dealing with menopause belly fat, here's where to start. Number one, progressive strength training as your primary tool combined with a little bit of cardio. Second, get your nutrition foundations right. Your protein, your carbohydrates, your fiber, evenly distributed through the day. Third, sleep and recovery. Address what is disrupting your sleep and treat it as a non-negotiable, whether that's an evening routine, a morning routine. And fourth, have an honest conversation about hormonal support following the foundation. So if you've been pulling at all different levers and you're not getting the result, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because the foundations are not in place yet. And without them, everything else is working against itself. So now you understand what your body actually needs at this stage, the foundation, not more levers. Please address those first, because so many women will be amazed at consistency with those foundations and how much progress they can make. So if you're in Vancouver, the in-studio ShesPrime assessment is where we start. We look at your strength, your recovery, how your body is actually responding right now. And then we build your program from that picture, not from a generic template. We use data. If you're anywhere else, we have a 16-week ShesPrime digital foundation. It does the same thing remotely. You have one-on-one support as well, progressive strength training, your protein and nutrition plan and targets. You have clear progression rules, and it's built specifically for women in this phase of life. And we also have optional clinical support once the foundations are in place. So remember, muscle is the menopause advantage. I'm Sheila Townsend. Stay prime, and I'll see you soon.